Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're interested in vocal technique, pick up my ebook called Becoming a Natural Singer, or if you want one-on-one help, book a lesson through my website or drop me an email, links in the description. So I want to talk about this sense of balancing our practice mentally. One of the challenges that we face when we start working at vocal technique is our eyes start to open, our awareness starts to grow. We start to question things we used to take for granted or assume. And the consequences of that can be a drop in confidence. One of the things I tell people is getting better at singing, A, isn't necessarily fun all the time, and B, it will expose things about yourself and it will expose who you are on a more fundamental level if you really get deeper into vocal technique and you have significant struggle with your technique. If you start from a tough place, you may have to face up to things that you didn't necessarily ever think about before. You may have thought, in my case for example, that you were relatively confident, but realize after a period of time that actually, compared to the average, you lack confidence. Things like this, and these can kind of pick away at your core in a sense. You end up getting into singing and realizing that you're getting into a whole other load of stuff as well that you didn't ask for or sign up for, quite frankly. But when we work at technique, we are developing motor skills, working at motor skills, we are letting go of old motor skills, we are growing new motor skills, and we're in this battle between what we were and what we want to be. And like I said, we have these challenges of confidence. What did that sound like? Was it balanced? Was it correct? What is correct? We start asking ourselves those types of questions. Am I singing this with confidence and certainty? Am I singing this with a sense of doubt and foreboding? How am I approaching this technically? Am I compressing too much? Am I compressing too little? Is the sound free? Is it released? Is it pushed? These types of questions. But that feeds back into a sense of, oh, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. Leads back into a sense of uncertainty and fear and like that thing that we don't want, we're not searching for. So over a period of time, we flip-flop back towards a sense of, yeah, I've got this down, I know what I'm doing, I'm in control. Wherever our technique is at, we've got to have periods, we've got to have a to and a fro, we've got to have a seesaw motion between these two senses of ego. Because too much of one or the other causes issues. If I'm just flowing all the time and enjoying singing and saying, yeah, just let go and just let rip and just explore and adventure and don't think about anything, just be. In one sense, we're going to sing well, but our ceiling is absolutely not going to move. Conversely, if I am constantly introspective, I'm constantly questioning what I'm doing and constantly thinking, is that right, is that wrong, what does it sound like, all of that stuff. If there's too much of that, there's no way to sing well, there's no way to get out of the trap. The confidence is going to crumble away and eventually collapse. Now, moreover, and more specifically just in terms of this video and what I want to get across, is that depending on your base level of confidence, you're going to need to be pushed in one direction more than the other. So some people have a very high base level of self-confidence, and day to day, they don't question things, they let flow most of the time, they're in the moment most of the time, and they're enjoying life. And that is the mindset that they prefer to be in most of the time. It's very natural for them. Conversely, other people are much more introspective most of the time. They're more introverted, they're thinking more, they are questioning themselves, they're questioning what other people think, all of that self-talk. Now, the answer becomes obvious. What type of balance does each one of these personalities need in terms of their vocal technique, or just generally in life, what is a better strategy? For the overthinking introvert, they need to work at and allow themselves to not think and be in flow more often. And they need to allow themselves to develop confidence and certainty and not question as much. Their real balance comes from thinking less more often and from letting themselves flow more often. This type of personality, you can give them permission to do this a lot more because their baseline is introspection. So they will always want to gravitate back towards that to some degree. It's never going to abandon them. It's never going to be something that they forget or they can't do any longer. So even if they are flowing consistently, they have access back to, how did that go? What went well? What went badly? Am I singing well? What do people think? That those types of questions they have access to still, and they will forever have access to those sorts of questions. Now, the ego can get a little bit out of control, but this type of personality is going to crash at some point if things aren't right, and they will go back to thinking and introspection and their default, their base level. So that personality needs a push in a certain direction that the other personality doesn't. People who are in the moment more, people whose base level of confidence is high, who don't question, who like to be in flow all the time, who aren't introspective, who aren't looking at themselves and thinking, how is what I'm doing coming across? These types of people find it very easy to flow as singers, and they actually tend to be the natural personality for what I would call the naturals. The natural singers tend to be more on this side. However, if they have issues vocally, if they have problems, like I said, they don't want to think about it. They don't want to look at themselves. It's too painful for them. So this type of personality needs to be reminded constantly that, it's not working too well. You could do better at this. Let's think about how this is coming across. Have you thought about how good your technique is, how skilled you are with the fundamentals of singing? Have you thought about where you are in the pecking order? These types of things bring the extroverted flow state type personality back into the real world. They very much need a lot more of that balance to get them back to the center. Now, they can get very introspective and very a sense of loss of ego and a sense of, oh my word, like this is a nightmare. I didn't sign up for this. I'm working at singing and I've lost all my confidence. Surely that can't be right, will be their natural instinct and thought. But they need to work at it and get better. And because their default setting is flow state, they will always be able to have access to that. They will always have free access to that because it's their most normal, natural state of being. No matter how much they become introverted, no matter how much they become introspective, it's very, very difficult for them to lose the ability to get into flow and to let go and to explore the moment and the now. So the broader point of this video is to get across that the answer to your singing, the answer to your technique, and the answer to your mindset as a singer is unique and different. It depends on who you are and how you grew up and what your thoughts are and what your thinking habits are and how good you are at singing, how good you are at the skill set and the fundamentals. All of that stuff counts. And the answers for you are not the answers for other people. I had an email today, a guy saying, I watched your videos about connecting and squeeze and they kind of helped, but now I feel like, my voice keeps getting hoarse and I'm pushing and I'm really questioning, all this stuff now and I don't know what's going on. The problem with these videos and the problem with looking at technical information up about the voice on YouTube, in particularly channels outside of this one that don't go into some of these deeper underlying issues of teaching voice as a one-way communication, i.e. me to you with no response. That is what YouTube is. The problem is the answers that I'm giving or the solutions that I'm giving are often for 60, 70% of people the right solution. But for 30% of the people, the wrong solution. And in fact, if they follow, squeeze, connect too much, it's the solution that will break their voice. It's the solution that will harm their voice if they take it too far. All the technical details that I talk about can be used to the point of abuse. Whether it is letting go of oversqueeze or holding on to undersqueeze, both of those directions are right and both of those directions are wrong. And it boils down to who you are, where you're at with the technique, and what's going to be most tailored towards you getting better. Now, if you don't have a coach to work with one-on-one, then you're going to have to figure that out to some degree. If you're somebody who's very quiet and shy and doesn't talk loudly and they're very careful and they're worried about what people think all the time, you're going to need to snap out of that, and you're going to need to be aggressive, and you're going to need to commit, you're going to need to stop questioning, and you're going to need to go, and worry about answering those questions later once you've been able to experience flow state as a singer. Conversely, if you're somebody that's listening to this and you're thinking, man, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about, I just let rip and I just go aggressive and I just sing my heart out and it's all good. But man, when I've got a few days of shows, I do tend to get a sore throat. I do tend to kind of feel like pretty fatigued after a few days, and I tend to get sore throats. And now I'm getting a little bit older, that's kind of happening more. Yeah, but I've just got to let go and be in the moment. That type of person needs to look at themselves and start thinking, how can I search for information that's going to fix this? How can I get better? How can I improve the great skills I already have? So if we don't have a coach, we have to answer some of these questions alone. This type of information will help, but in the end, for most people, especially the harder cases, it's going to be some type of a combination. You're going to find that you get some help from certain coaches, maybe some lessons here and there, and you grind away at home. You think some of these problems through. You start to understand yourself better. You start to understand technique better. You start to understand what you've got to do, and things start to work. But you've got to figure out where you're at, and you've got to figure out specifically what information is going to help you, not what information is going to help singers generally. If someone's just saying to you, you've got to give diaphragmatic support, you've got to open your throat, and you've got to do all that stuff, that is a one-size-fits-all method, and by default it is wrong. So anyone telling you that, turn off the channel, delete channel, end watching that channel, because it's wrong based on the information I just told you, which is correct. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts for today. Hit me up in the comments, let me know your thoughts, give me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.